Hey, what's up guys? Hardleg Joe here with the deck profile for the Ghostrick Beatdown deck. I'm just going to go through everything in here, and I'll explain how it works. So for monsters, we're playing mostly Ghostricks. We've got 2 Stein, 1 Ghoul, 3 Jiangshi, 3 Doll, 3 Lantern, 3 Jack Frost, 3 Spectre, 3 Mary, and then our only non-Ghostrick 3 Battle Fader. Our spells, 1 Raigeki, 1 Dark Hole, 3 Terraforming, 2 Allure of Darkness, 3 Swords of Concealing Light, 2 Ghostrick Mansion, and 2 Ghostrick Museum. Our traps are 3 Heavy Dust Storm, 3 Drowning Mirror Force, 3 Ghostrick Scare, and 1 each of Ghostrick Vanish, Ghostrick Go Round, and Ghostrick Knight. Our extra deck is 3 Ghostrick Angel of Mischief, 1 Acid Golem, 1 Phantom Knights of Breaksword, 2 Ghostrick Alucard, 1 So Cute Boss, 2 Doulahan, 1 Slacker Magician, 1 F-Zero Utopic Future, Veral Lord Dragon, Decode Talker, and Akashic Magician. The side deck I'll go over in a moment. So the Ghostricks, if you're unfamiliar with them, they all focus on face-down shenanigans. All the Ghostrick monsters have the same summoning condition. They cannot be normal summoned unless you control another Ghostrick monster. And they share this same effect, which is once per turn, you can change this card to face-down defense position. This works with their field spells. We're playing 2 of them. They both share a common effect as well, which is monsters cannot attack face-down defense position monsters, but can attack directly if all monsters their opponent controls are face-down. So at its most basic level, the win condition with this deck is to flip all your opponent's monsters face-down, get a field spell on, and then you can attack directly with all these Ghostricks. Most of them have pretty small attack, but they swarm very well, so if you can get a bunch of them on the field at once, you can usually put on about 5,000 damage per turn. This is especially so once you start going into the extra deck. In particular, Ghostrick Angel of Mischief, which has 2,000 attack. You can summon this on top of any Ghostrick Ixie, and we've got a level 3, a level 2, and a level 1, which is what all the Ghostrick monsters are. So if you can get any 2 monsters with the same level, you can go into any of these Ixies, and then once you have them, you can put them into Angel of Mischief. So that's at least 2,000 direct attack if your opponent has face-down monsters. Now, you got a lot of cards in this deck that can change monsters to face-down defense position. I'll go ahead and go over all of them. I'll start with the spell traps because they're the simplest, in particular Swords of Concealing Light. When this card resolves, all monsters your opponent controlled when this card was activated are changed to face-down defense position. Monsters your opponent control cannot change their battle positions, and destroy this card during the second standby phase after activation. So basically this just buys you 2 turns of face-down stuff. Again, if you can swarm heavily enough, you're either going to be able to do enough damage to kill them during those 2 turns, or set things up so that you're going to be able to keep them face down after those 2 turns. Next up is one of our field spells. Ghostrick Museum is whenever a monster inflicts battle damage, it's changed to face down defense position at the end of the damage step. We're only playing it at 2 because against certain decks you really don't want to have this because you're going to be taking all the damage, but in exchange for that, their monster is going face down, so then during your turn, you have the clear field to attack into them. Again, works better for decks that swarm with a bunch of little monsters than ones with big monsters. Against big monsters, I tend to use this other one. It doesn't turn things face down. It just says that all effect damage and battle damage inflicted by monsters other than Ghostricks is halved. This is good against not only high attack monsters, but like Link monsters where they can't be flipped face down. We're just playing both of these because they're good in certain situations, and then the 3 Terraforming so you can decide which one you want. And if you do find that one of these works particularly well against your opponent, we've got a 3rd copy of each one in the side deck, so just swap it out for the other one. That way you're more likely to have the useful one when you're playing in the 2nd and possibly 3rd duels. Anyway, as far as flipping things face down, we've also got this Ghostrick Scare. This is a trap. Target any number of face-down defense position monsters you control, change them to face-up defense position, count the number of Ghostrick monsters, and if you do, change that many face-up monsters your opponent controls to face-down defense position. This is great because not only does it not target, but you choose the monsters at resolution, so if they tag out or move the monsters off the field and replace them with other monsters, you can then just flip them down with Ghostrick Scare. Of course, this is just a single effect, it only works on the 1 turn, but if you have like 5 monsters, they're literally not going to be able to have anything. You can flip all their stuff face down. And there's also a pretty neat loop, I didn't mention it, but Angel of Mischief has its effect that it can detach 1 material to add any Ghostrick spell trap from your deck to your hand. And then 2 of your other Ixies, the Alucard and the Doulahan, have the effect that if they're sent to the graveyard, you could target another Ghostrick card in your graveyard and add that to your hand. So normally you summon this, you put Angel of Mischief on top, and then when you detach either this or Alucard, you're able to recur your scare from your graveyard, put it back on your field. Same thing with any of your other spell traps. That's why we're playing a lot of these at 1, because you can search them with Mischief, and you can reuse them by detaching one of these two or just having them sent to the graveyard. Speaking of our other one-ofs, Ghostrick Go Round. During the battle phase, you can activate one of these effects. Either target a face-down Ghostrick, put it to face-up attack position, and change a monster your opponent controls that's in attack position to face-down defense position, or vice versa. Change a face-up Ghostrick to face-down to put one of their face-down monsters to face-up attack position. Less useful than Scare because it's only during the battle phase, and it only affects one monster on each side of the field, plus it puts your monsters in attack position. But because it's continuous, you can continue to use it each turn. If you've already got a lot of their monsters locked down and they're only able to summon one, this can be really useful, or especially against slower decks that are more normal summon focus. This also becomes really handy with Ghostrick Knight. This is while a Ghostrick monster is face up on the field, your opponent cannot flip summon. So that means if once you get your opponent's monsters face down, either with Scare or with Concealing Light or however, as long as you can keep one Ghostrick monster face up, usually it's Angel of Mischief, they're not going to be able to flip any of those monsters back face up to attack you with them. Again, it's just a one-of because it's only useful once your opponent's monsters are already face down. You don't want to open with like 2 of these. Plus, you only really need 1 because it's a continuous trap. And like I said, you can search, you can recur it if it gets lost. As for monsters, we've got 2 of them that flip face down. We've got Ghostrick Jack Frost. This is when an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, you could change that monster to face down defense position, and if you do, special summon this from your hand in face down defense position. So a pretty good battle trap, and again, because your field spells are going to make them direct attacks, you're going to be able to use this pretty consistently. And then Ghostrick Doll is when this card is flipped face up during the end phase, change as many face up monsters on the field as possible to face down defense position, then special summon 1 Ghostrick monster from your deck in face-down defense position, whose level is less than or equal to the number of monsters that you flipped face down. Kind of a long effect, but very, very useful. It basically acts like a flip effect. Once it's flipped face up, it activates, and then no matter how many monsters leave or enter the field, during the end phase, they'll all go face down, and for every monster you put face down, you can have a Ghostrick of a higher level. So 3 monsters will get you Jiangshi, 2 can get you another doll, 1 will get you any of your level 1 monsters. This is especially good with something like Ghostrick Scare, where you can flip this up to flip your opponent's monsters face down, and even if they manage to special summon something after that, it's going to go face down in the end phase. So those are your main players. You're putting everything face down, and then you're just attacking with these guys. Very little attack again, but you most likely want to go into Mischief. You can do at least 2,000. And then we've also playing Stein. I haven't played this in previous Ghostrick builds, but it's got 1,600 attack, so it's one of the highest attack point Ghostricks. And when it inflicts damage, you can add a Ghostrick spell trap from your deck to your hand. So again, just even more searching of your deck. That's why you can afford to play a 50-card deck, because you have so much search power that you can get to all these one-ofs, even with such a bloated deck. And then likewise, we're playing the 1 Ghoul. This can help with Beatdown. It's, during the main phase, you could target 1 Ghostrick monster you control, and its attack becomes equal to the combined attack of all the Ghostrick monsters currently on the field until the end of your opponent's turn. But only that monster can attack if you do this. This can be really good if they have link monsters that can't be put face down, or another face-up monster that you're having trouble to get face down, you can't target it maybe. You can just run it over with battle. If you can get like a Stein in this just on its own, you're already looking at 2,700, plus with any of these other like little additions, it all really adds up. And of course, if you've got an Angel of Mischief, that's adding 2,000 onto it. So with a full field, you can actually get Stein up to like 5,000, 7,000 attack. And if they've got a monster, you're going to be able to kill it. And if they don't have a monster, then you're attacking directly for 5,000 to 7,000. Of course, if you don't have any other monsters, Ghoul's essentially useless. That's why we just play him at 1. You summon him with Doll once you get going, or you add him with Jiangshi. When Jiangshi is flipped face up, you can add from your deck to your hand 1 Ghostrick monster whose level is less than or equal to the number of Ghostrick monsters you control. So if it's just him on the field, he gets attacked by battle, he's flipped face up, you have 1 face up Ghostrick, so you can add a level 1 monster from your deck to your hand. If you can get 2 other monsters, then there's 3, and that's how you can get your Ghoul. Now, of course, this is just useful in general as a searcher, but it's also pretty good stall, because you can use him to add Spectre from your deck to your hand. This is when a Ghostrick monster is destroyed by opponent's card effect or by battle, and sent to the graveyard. You could special summon this card from your hand face down, and if you do, draw one card. So a little bit of safety net, like even if they Raigeki and you have this in hand, you can summon it, you can draw a card, so you're still going through your deck. But that important combo, if you set Jiangshi, that's all you have, they attack into it, it flips, you get your Spectre, and then this will be sent to the graveyard, and you can immediately activate Spectre from your hand. So just setting this on your first turn, not only are you protected from 2 battles, because you'll have to go through this and your Spectre, but you get to draw a card as well and deck thin out of your Spectre. And of course, if this is the last card they destroy, then you have a level 1 on the field. Next turn you can flip it face up and add any of your other level 1s. Speaking which, our other level 1s, we have Ghostrick Mary. This is when you take damage, you can discard this card to special summon a Ghostrick from your deck in face-down defense position. Pretty good because it summons any Ghostrick monster out of the deck, no matter how much damage you take. Of course, you have to take damage in the first place, which makes it less than optimal. Normally, if I'm summoning something with Doll and I'm only going to get a level 1 monster, I'll go with this, just because you really don't want it in your hand as much. And then our last level 1 Ghostrick is just Lantern, which is if your opponent declares a direct attack or an attack against a Ghostrick, you can negate the attack, special summon it in face-down defense position. Not only good for blocking those direct attacks, but if you just have your one Angel of Mischief up, and you have something like Ghostrick Knight preventing them from flipping things, if they do happen to get a monster bigger, and they try to attack over your Angel of Mischief, then you can block that attack. Our final monster is just Battle Fader. When your opponent's monster declares a direct attack, special summon it from your hand and end the battle phase. Which is good because it's a dark, so it's an Allure of Darkness target. It's level 1, so you can use it to make Duelahan, which is just any 2 level 1s, or your Slacker Magician if you need to. And of course, because you have your field spell most of the time, you can stop direct attacks, even if they're from a Link monster or something else that can't be face down. Or say they have a whole field of 5 monsters. It's better to have this than to just block 1 or 2 attacks with Lantern. Likewise, that's why we're playing Drowning Mirror Force, because you're always going to have your field spell. Any attack is a direct attack. This can be a really great way to, again, get rid of Link monsters, anything big like that. And I think that should be just about it. The only other Ghostrick card is Vanish, which is just useful in niche situations. Reveal a Ghostrick monster in your hand this turn. Ghostrick card you control and face-down defense position monsters can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects. Which is pretty nice. If you have a Ghostrick in your hand, you can chain it. It'll prevent your field spells from being destroyed. If they Dark Hole Raigeki, it'll prevent all your face-down monsters from being destroyed. Again, though, kind of useless on its own, especially if they're not doing, like, board wipes or whatever. That's why I just played it 1. Once you establish your board, then search it. And if they're playing a lot of Destruction, you've got extra copies in the side deck you can put in. As for our Destruction, we're playing Heavy Dust Storm as our Spell Trap removal, which you've got to play some Spell Trap removal because Pendulum Magicians are still a hot thing. If Pendulum Magicians are out of the meta when you're watching this, if they have something else that's not reliant on Spell Traps, feel free to take this out, put in something else from the side deck. Likewise, Raigeki and Dark Hole, you kind of need for the meta right now. It's really a build-a-board kind of meta, where they'll establish their board first turn, just make this huge thing. So having board wipes is pretty much essential. But if that changes, if they get to non-destruction monsters or whatever, then again, switch things out for stuff in your side deck. I mentioned a lot of the stuff I would actually run on the side deck, the extra field spells, the extra Vanish. Quaking Mirror Force is really good. When your opponent monster declares attacks, change all attack positions they control to face-down defense position, and they cannot change their battle positions. This was a staple in Ghostricks before Links. It's still kind of a staple. Again, if you're playing against a deck that doesn't have Links, put this in. Especially if there's no spell traps, then get rid of your Heavy Dust Storms. You could get rid of these ones if you don't want them. Allure of Darkness is a good replacement. It's just because I play singles, I have to keep these in the side deck because they could be useless against certain decks. Likewise, Book of Eclipse can be really, really good. Change all monsters on the field to face-down defense position, then during the end phase, flip as many up as your opponent controls as possible, and they draw cards equal to the number of monsters flipped face up. This can be really good for stopping attacks. It can be really good for saving your ass for just like 1 turn, but depending on what kind of deck they're playing, you might, like, having them draw a whole bunch of cards is not going to be good, and unless you can sort of finish the fight the next turn, I wouldn't really recommend this. But against certain decks, where they have a lot of spell trap removal, you're not even going to be able to play your traps, so this will be the optimal thing to use. And then other than that, we just got another Allure of Darkness if you want to get rid of one of these if it's not particularly useful. There's a lot of Link 2 monsters that aren't out in the TCG yet that I would really recommend putting in here. The links I have here are basically just a toolbox. You can put whatever. They're just in case. But oftentimes you'll get Angel of Mischief. You'll use all of its stuff. And it would be really nice to have a Link 2 with a downward-facing arrow that you could just sort of trade this out for something else and then make another one of your Ixie monsters. Right now we don't have that, but here's some good candidates. When these do come out, I would definitely put these in, just so you can change your Angel of Mischief out for something and get something else. Although, while I didn't mention it before, Angel of Mischief does have a third effect. You can attach any Ghostrick card from your hand or field to it as Ixie material, so you never really have to worry about completely running out of material. Any card you draw that's a Ghostrick, you can detach and then turn it into a Ghostrick spell trap. And there's also a pretty neat thing that if you have 10 materials on this card, you win the duel, so it's got its own win condition. Although this deck doesn't stall enough for you to do that. But if you're playing against a stall deck, or like a Chain Burn or something, and you've stopped them because this makes you take half effect damage, this can actually come in handy. I've come close to getting the win condition once. Alternatively, while I'm not playing it, there's also Ghostrick Reform. If it's in the graveyard, you can banish it from the graveyard to target a Ghostrick Ixie, special summon another Ghostrick from your extra deck with a different name on top of it by using it as material, which can of course help you turn your Angel of Mischief back into any of these if you need to use their effect. I didn't mention it, Alucard can detach to destroy a face-down card on the field, Duelahan can have a monster's attack, and it gains 200 for each Ghostrick card you control. So it can actually get up higher than Angel of Mischief if you really swarm. And So Cute Boss is while you control another Ghostrick monster, your opponent cannot target this for attacks. Once per turn, you can detach an Ixie material, target face-up monster on the field with attack less than or equal to the combined attack of all Ghostrick monsters on the field, and destroy it, which is actually a pretty decent effect, but it rarely comes up. It's mostly good for getting over Utopia the Lightning, because if you can get this and a couple other more monsters, you can just destroy it with a card effect and not have to worry about battling it with Ghoul. But anyway, this will help you get any of these on top of your Angel of Mischief. Its main effect is target a Ghostrick field spell you control, return it to the hand, and activate a field spell from your deck or hand. Seems really, really good because it helps your field spell dodge out of spell trap destruction. But we've already got Ghostrick Vanish. We've already got a bunch of field spells as it is. And if you draw this without a field spell, then it's just a completely dead card. It's not doing anything. So I didn't particularly like it. It ended up being dead for me more than it was useful. But it is the only new piece of support we got this year, so a lot of people like trying it out. So there you go for Halloween, a 50-card Ghostrick Beatdown deck. Not the greatest deck, especially in Link format, but it can still pack a punch. You could still beat some stuff. You can even sort of stall enough against the meta decks to put up a good fight. So especially if you want some rogue troll contender, can't go wrong with Ghostricks. Very fun, very interesting mechanics. Next week, I think I'm going to be playing a Patreon request for ABC. Not exactly sure, though. We'll see. Until then, good luck, have fun, and happy Halloween.